Welcome to Becoming Limitless. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to optimize their brain and their body with biohacking. I'm going to teach you how to eliminate brain fog and upgrade your health so you can have more productivity, energy, and growth in your business. I'm your host, Tanessa Shears. Let's jump in. Welcome back to the Becoming Limitless podcast. How's your week been going? I have to tell you, I'm having one of those days where I feel so good. And this morning, I think it had to do with the workout. So I woke up this morning at 5:30, just woke up naturally, sun's coming up, went downstairs, did a 15-minute power incline walk on the treadmill, and then did a 45-minute strength session. And it is one of those days where I was standing in the shower after, and my arms were vibrating, my legs were vibrating, my butt was vibrating, my abs were vibrating. And it's one of those days where I was just dang, that was a good workout. I feel really good. And so I'm rolling it off that today. I'm in a really good headspace. The energy is good. Came off a good sleep. Things are good. And this kind of ties really nicely into today's podcast. We're going to be talking about how to know if you're ready to add another health habit. And so here's I'm going to set the stage for this one. So picture this. You're okay, I'm going to start leveling up my health. I want better energy. I want better focus. I want to get rid of that brain fog. I want to start feeling like I prioritize my health. I want to be the type of business owner that really knows how to balance life and work. I want that for me, all right? So I'm going to take on some habits. Maybe you start a walking routine. And then maybe you clean up your lunch and you add more vegetables at lunch. And then maybe you decide to go to bed a little bit earlier, half an hour earlier, and you've got those habits, right? And then you take on a few more because you're that's probably not enough. I should probably be doing strength training, right? Tanessa says I should do strength training. I should do strength training. So you add strength training in. And then you're then there's this thing called zone 2 cardio. Oh, and then I should probably be meditating. And then I should probably cut out sugar and flour. And you have all of these things that you're I'm going to just add a few more habits and a few more habits. And this is where you find you can't keep all the balls up in the air and some of the things begin to drop. All of a sudden you're yeah, I'm doing my walks and I've got my vegetables at lunch, but I'm not going to bed anywhere near the right time because I'm working so late now. Or, I have just been eating whatever's in the fridge because I haven't been making time to grocery shop. And I can't keep them all. There's too much to do. I'm just in a busy season right now. It's okay. Things will calm down. And you get all these balls starting to drop and you're just why can't I be consistent, right? We had a podcast episode, was it a couple weeks ago, about creating consistency with your health. And I know what to do, but why can't I do it? And we talked a little bit about discomfort in that episode and understanding that your tolerance for discomfort needs to increase, right? And yes, there are a lot of coaching angles that we can take on this conversation, but I also think that there's just some strategy that needs to play into it. And I think that's what makes the work that I do very effective with clients is it's not just the strategy, right? It's not just the bedtime hacks, the coffee hacks, the sleep hacks, the food hacks. It's not just that, but understanding what it takes to become someone who implements those things consistently, because really consistency is what we're struggling with for the most part, right? We know what healthy food is. We know what good movement is. We know what work boundaries are, but why aren't we keeping them consistent? And so I want to kind of keep this conversation continued now and give you a little bit of a sneak peek into what I do with clients inside my brain, how I have created such awesome consistency over the years in such a way that my health has become just not something that I do because I want to take care of my health. It's who I am. And if I get sick for a week, I never worry about getting back on track because it's who I am. I just start again, or if I go on vacation and they don't have weights, it's okay. I come back home and I start doing weights again. It's not a problem. It's not something I ever stress about or worry about. It's who I am. And if I do 2 workouts one week and 5 the next week, I'm not beating myself up because to me, I am a consistent person with this. And so I'm just going to be giving you a really succinct, easy tool and strategy that you can use today to answer the question, are you actually ready to add on another health habit? And here is what this looks like. We're going to go back to what we were talking about here is you add a health habit, then another one, then another one. Can't keep all the balls up in the air. Something starts to drop. And so what this looks like in practice, if you're to assess, is this happening to me right now, is you don't have time to implement all your habits. You're just I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to grocery shop. I don't have time to meal plan. And it feels like some of them are working, some of them are not. And the real reason underneath is just there's no time for it, right? Or this can also look like forgetting about them. Like I've had some clients that'll just say, I forgot about bedtime. Like I actually forgot. It's not something I was like, I'm not going to bed on time. It's just like it was an hour past bedtime and I'd completely forgotten to do my wind down routine. Right? Is that happening to you? Does this sound familiar? Or it can look like not seeing results on the habits you are doing because you're moving like an inch forward on 12 different habits. Like you have so many things that you're trying to manage and organize and measure, and am I getting results on that? You're like, well, I'm not really feeling more energized. I'm not feeling clear. I'm not losing weight. I'm not adding muscle. I'm not doing any of this because you're spread so thin that you're moving each habit forward like an inch. So tiny that it's like the results take so long to get there because you're spread so thin instead of really going in and getting results on one thing. And so you become frustrated with yourself, right? And this can be an issue. Like it's not fun to feel frustrated with yourself, right? And when we start to look at like what is causing this need that we have to add more habits, even though I think in the back of our mind, we haven't actually concretely developed them as a habit yet, right? And I came up with 3 reasons when I was thinking of all the clients I've worked with over the years, like what are the reasons that we end up continuing to take on more even though we kind of feel shaky with the habits we already have. And number 1 is we have this conversation in our head and we're telling ourselves that more habits is better, right? More healthy things are better. More walks, more workouts, more healthy meals, more all of this, more. The more we can do, the more successful we are, right? And that's silly because if we're half doing stuff, we're falling off track, we're forgetting to do these habits, we're not getting results in any of them. More is not better. I would rather you choose a few habits, execute effectively, and move down the road, move the needle forward, than have a whole bunch of habits just to say that, I'm doing all of the healthy things, but really not progressing on any of them. The second reason is perfectionism. This is so common among entrepreneurs, especially as high achievers who want to be that fit CEO, parent, whatever it is, this combination that you're just excited about showing up as this vision for yourself. So we just are like, well, heck, I'm going to do it all or nothing at all. Nothing is good enough unless it's perfect. I'm doing all the things. I'm doing them right. I'm doing them all the time. And that perfectionism can actually be quite troubling, right? Because the only person that's telling you that you have to do all the things to be valuable, to be worthwhile, for it to be good enough is you, right? And so I love to have that conversation in myself with like, can I be okay with doing 3 things well instead of 10 things mediocre, right? So that perfectionism is what is causing us to take on more and more because we tell ourselves, if I don't do all the things, then what's the point, right? So understanding, working that process through so that you can be happy with just doing a couple habits, right? And then the last one is impatience. Impatience is a huge reason we start doing more and it stems from this idea, and I've talked about this at length on the podcast before, but it stems from this belief that there is better than here. When I get the result, it will be better, feel better, look better than it does now. And I'm not going to go into this because I've gone into this on podcasts before, but we'll just I'm just going to sneak into it a little bit. So when we have this there is better than here belief, we believe that when we achieve A, B, and C, life will be better or feel better. But that is a construct made in our head because we tell ourselves that when I get there, I'm going to have a certain emotion that I cannot have now. And it's usually accomplishment, pride, happiness, whatever it is like that. But I'm a huge believer that we get to choose the emotional state and the thoughts that we have all of the time now. So why would I deprive myself of choosing those thoughts, choosing to feel that way now, and put it off until I hit some later result? Because if you choose not to do the work and change your brain on how you think and be able to achieve that happiness now, you're going to get to the goal and it's going to be so disappointing because it's going to feel the same way as it did right now. So we want to practice being able to feel the way we're going to feel when we fit the pair of jeans, when we feel more energized, when we have the health routine that we want in place, whatever it is, we want to practice feeling that now. So those are the 3 reasons that we end up taking on too many health habits, right? More means better. Perfectionism, impatience, okay? So why does this matter if we don't stay consistent, right? Like, what does this even matter? Well, you're not going to get the result, for one, and that's frustrating. And not getting that result creates a lot of mental discomfort, right? Because our brain starts going, where's my result? What's wrong with this? Am I doing this right? Is this working, right? And as you experience that increasing level of discomfort, you have to continue taking action because you have twice the amount of discomfort. There's the discomfort of starting, and now that you're dealing with the discomfort in your brain is creating from all of that negative conversation, right? And it becomes very hard to motivate yourself to continue. And if you can't stay consistent, you end up stuck in brain fog. You end up stuck feeling drained and fatigued and overwhelmed, right? And we just don't ever get to that next level. We don't progress. We don't give ourselves that clarity, right? That edge, that focus that allows us to show up as peak performers in our business, right? That's why I talk about creating a system for your health, right? We need to build a system. And this involves making sure that we have procedures in place to make sure that we are able to have habits that we can be consistent with, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the solution, right? The reason this is happening, like why we're getting frustrated and falling off the wagon all the time is because we're starting new habits too soon, right? You haven't mastered the old habits and you're taking on more before you really got a good grip on what we're doing. So adding new habits can be problematic if you're not adequately assessing where you are before you add in a new habit, right? And so we get caught up in sometimes in all of this new because it's exciting, right? New feels good. New is exciting. New means we can crack open our planners and like, ooh, I'm going to do this workout here and I'm going to go grocery shopping here. The plan is great, right? And it feels so good. And we get caught up in that dopamine hit, that new, that excitement that we never achieve true mastery of these habits. And it never really feels like home. Like we never develop that identity as a type of person who just is healthy, that just takes care of themselves, right? So what I'm going to be sharing with you now is an activity that I take my clients through when, let's say they're in my program, Becoming Limitless, and they've gone through the sleep modules and their sleep is good and they really want to move on. Let's say they want to move on to the food module because they tell themselves like, I've been working on sleep for a while. I'm in this program. I've got to move on. I've got to get all the video lessons done. For you, this might look like, I've been doing this workout for a while and now I need to layer in, sleep and whatever it is. Okay. So here's the action. It's exactly how I would coach my clients. And it's an activity that I've done in a group setting, in one-on-one setting. So I want you to steal it and I want you to implement it. And it is called a health habit zoom out. Okay. And so here's what it's going to look like. And here's what I would say. I'd be like, okay, so let's zoom out for a moment and let's get a very succinct bullet point list of all of the actionable habits that you are currently working on, okay? And to define, working on is meaning you are still having to work to make them feel consistent. Like you don't have to work on brushing your teeth in the morning because it's so well practiced. So that wouldn't be something you're working on, right? But let's say 9:30 bedtimes are something you are working on because there's still something you're having to consciously think about, right? If you're consciously having to be like, okay, I have to shut down my computer by 8 and make sure I'm doing my wind down routine and like you're missing it half the time, then that means that is something you are working on. So that's what we're doing. We're writing down all of the habits you are working on right now. And it's really important that they are actionable. So I want you to be like 9:30 p.m. bedtime, 6 nights per week, not go to bed on time, right? Walk 7,000 steps per day, not walk more often. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Like I want it to be so measurable so that you can very easily say, yes, I'm doing that, or no, I'm not doing that. So you're going to write down your bullet point list, okay? And I think this is a good exercise in itself because it'll really see how many things you are trying to manage. And you might be at the place right now where you're managing them all really well. But I think it's just a really good exercise in general to review like how many health habits are you working on right now? So why do I do this? Why do I ask this question? It is because I'm trying to get a feel for your pacing, right? And if you are ready to enter a season of implementation. What is a season of implementation? It is a time where you are just working on the same things without needing to add anything new, right? As entrepreneurs, we're always like, what is the new lead generating tactic? What is the new sales thing? What is the new thing to do on Instagram? What is the new email marketing strategy? Like new all of the time, right? We do it with our health too. Like just having a consistent set of good health habits never feels like enough. So we're always adding more. So I often invite us to reflect and ask ourselves, like, are we entering a season of implementation? Do I need to go a month, 2 months, 3 months without doing any new health habits and really focusing in on the ones that we are doing well right now? Season of implementation. It's a thing. You don't always have to be doing more, better, just because you got, a 90 sleep score on your Oura Ring, or you've eaten no sugar for the last month. It does not mean you have to do something new. You can just get really good at it. Let it sink into your bones. Let it become who you are, right? There's a thing that I like to say to my clients all the time, right? I don't want habits to be something we're just getting right. I want it to be something we can't get wrong, right? It's who we are. It's a standard we have set for ourselves, right? So really looking at when you're making this list, the length of the list and how you feel you are doing on this list will determine whether you are in a season and you're ready to add another health habit or you're not. So for example, your list might look like, and I want you to be hearing the specificity in the things that I'm saying, 10,000 steps per day. Exercise 3 days a week for 30 minutes. I want to have a breakfast with 30 grams of protein with my green tea in the morning. I want to drink 64 ounces of water per day. I want to meal plan once a week and meal prep 3 days of food at a time. I want to achieve 7.5 hours of sleep per night. Time of sleep. Do you see how those are all very, very specific? Okay, so that was part one of the activities. You want to write down the habits you're doing. Next, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you go through that list and rate each single habit from 1 to 7 on the consistency scale. So where consistency means like you're doing it most of the time and are satisfied with your implementation, not perfection. 7 out of 7 does not mean I am perfect, I never get it wrong, right? It's that level of consistency where it has become part of who you are. You're not stressing about it. It's just what you would get back to if you got sick. So what I've actually done is I've broken down the numbers 1 to 7 into more tangible ratings for you to be able to give this. And so I'm going to walk you through what I would rate as a 1 and what I would rate as a 2 all the way till 7. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop this rating scale in the description so that you can screenshot it, because hearing it, you're going to be like, okay, I get it, but it might not be when you go to sit down and actually do this exercise. It'll help you be able to reference it a lot easier. Okay, so remember, you're taking your habits, rating them 1 to 7. If you rate this habit a 1, it means you are not consistent at all. Essentially, what you're saying to yourself is, I can't even get this right. Like, I'll set it for a day or two, and then I'll fall off, and I don't do it. Okay, so 1 is not consistent at all. You rate yourself a 2 if you get it right once in a while. And this can look like, I get it right, but then I go long stretches before I get it right again. So maybe you say, that's it, I'm not eating sugar. You go 3 days, you fall off, and then you give up for like a couple of weeks, and then you'll start again, right? That's a 2. If you give yourself a 3, I'm on and off for long stretches, which means like I get it right, but then I stop for a bit. So you might do your daily 10-minute walks for 3 or 4 days, and then you'll skip 3 or 4 days, and then you'll do 2 days, and you'll off 2 days, and you'll do 5 days. So you kind of have this on-off pattern, right? That's a 3. If you give yourself a 4, it means you're doing it some of the time. So I get it right half the time. So like, let's say you want to go to bed at 9:30 p.m., lights out, 6 nights a week, and you're hitting a 3 right now. Like 3 nights, you're like, yes, I'm in bed on time, and 3 nights, not even close, okay? So that would be giving yourself a 4. If you give yourself a 5, you're doing it most of the time. So I'm getting it right 75% of the time. So given 4 nights of going to bed at 9:30, 3 of them, you're hitting the mark. So you're getting up at that 75% now. You're like, okay, I'm seeing a level of consistency, but I still am not fully there yet. That's a 4. That's a 5, sorry. If you're giving yourself a 6, it's, I don't miss this very often. I get it right 90% of the time. So like, you're going to do you have 10 workouts planned, 9 of them you hit. You're 90% consistent. Okay, so this, for the most part, is what most of us aim to get to. You want to be able to get 90% of the time, you eat the healthy meal. 90% of the time, you go to bed on time. 90% of the time, you hit your workouts, okay? And when you reach that 7, it's like, I've nailed it. I can't get it wrong. Like, unless something comes up and I'm sick, or unless, I have chosen to, extend a work deadline for something, like, I can't get it wrong. Like, this is who I am. And I'm going to read through those really quick. 1, not consistent at all. 2, I get it right once in a while. 3, I'm on and off for long stretches. 4, I'm doing it some of the time. 5, I'm doing it most of the time. 6, I don't miss this very often. And 7 is I've nailed it. Where are you on those health habits, okay? Like, I really look through those, because often what happens is when I do these with clients, they will usually list I would honestly say between 5 and 7 habits. This is what most of us are trying to carry with our health habit load. And if yours is more or less, that's totally fine. And then when they go to rate them, there will be several things on that list that are like a 6 or a 7. And they're like, yeah, I've got that. Like, yeah, my water, no problem, drinking water. But then there'll be these sneaky ones in there that are like a 2. And they're just like, yep, that's something I'm worked on, but I haven't paid attention to it for a while. Or like, I like the idea of meal planning, but just never happens. If you look at your list and you see things that have a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4, even a 5, I want you to pause and resist the urge to add in another health habit, because you want to be the person. You don't want to just be the person who gets it right. You want to be the person who can't get it wrong, right? You want to just have that identity as someone who is healthy, right? So when you're looking at your list, what do you focus on? Continue focusing on the habits on that list until they are all a 6 or a 7. Hear that. Stay with the list of habits you are currently working on until they are at a 6 or a 7. When your habits are at that point, then add a new habit. If you are trying to add a new habit and you have 2s, 3s, 4s, even some 5s on there, you're not quite ready yet. You haven't developed the consistency in those areas, and adding on a new habit will only cause more overwhelm. It'll spread your attention more thin. It'll reduce the results that you're getting. It'll cause that mental overwhelm. You're having to deal with more discomfort. Like, it's not fun. It's not fun, right? And if you are looking at your list and you have 7 things and there's like 4 of them that are like a 3 or a 4 or a 2, you have my permission to take something off of that list. Yes, off. I know this is counterintuitive because we're like, this is a health podcast. Like, what are you telling me to do less healthy habits? Well, if it's causing you to be inconsistent in the habits that matter most, then we need to take some off. So if this is you in this type of situation, I might actually look at this list and be like, okay, what are the needle movers? Which ones make me feel the best? Because you might have, eat vegetables at lunch and whatever, all of these habits. But if you know that getting a good night of sleep and getting movement in first thing in the morning, if those are the 2 things that really help your energy, your focus, your mood, your clarity, help you show up as an effective entrepreneur, then focus on those first. Right? Whittle down your list and focus. Then what I'm going to have you do is every single week, do it on a Sunday. I like Sundays for some reason. They feel like a fresh start to the week going in. Write down your habits again and rate yourself from that 1 to 7 again. And I'm going to have you start looking and being like, okay, the goal is that you continually start bumping those habits up. Now, we're not looking for perfection, not 7s across the board, but I want you to be able to say that the healthy habits you're working on, you get right 90% of the time. Like, if we're still struggling with 75% of the time, I might consider really focusing in on the big needle moving habits first. Because I'm just going to give you a little frame of reference of why I came up with this. It's because in this sphere of health, and honestly, I think business too, but in this sphere of health, there is always something you can be working on. There is always something you can be working on. I want you to think about this. Like, I consider myself someone who has a lot of value in their health, takes very good care of my health. This is the body I get. I want to take care of it. Like, this is my experience, right? And I still feel like there is so much stuff I have not tried yet. And the impatience I can feel sometimes is like, I haven't experimented with red light therapy. I think that would be really cool. I have not experimented with regular cold plunges. Showers, sure. Cold plunges, no. I have not experimented with consistent grounding, getting barefoot on the earth on a regular basis if I'm not on vacation. It was super easy in Panama. Less easy here in Vancouver where it's raining, right? Most of the year. And there's so much stuff that I have not done yet. I want to get a continuous glucose monitor to watch my glucose levels. I want to So I want to do yoga more often. I want to try meditation more often. I want to do it consistent. There's so much that I want to do. And it can feel like you're on this hamster wheel of like, but if I don't add everything on, then I'm never going to get to, it's just, there's so much and I've got to fix this and I've got to fix this. I get it. And here's how I have helped with that. I have created a mindset of this is fun. Like, how cool is it that there's still like 30 more things that I want to try? How cool is it that I get to experience all of these things? This is so fun. I get to experiment with all of these things at some point in the future. I want to buy a sauna for my house. How cool is it that I will get to experiment and watch the effect that it has on my heart rate variability by looking at my Oura ring? How fun is that? My current experiment that I am in right now is doing daily walks and watching what happens to my readiness level, to my sleep, to all of this stuff. You are never going to reach the end of the health things that you wish you could try, want to try, think you should try. So let's have fun, right? It's one big experiment. We have a whole life ahead of us. Like, let's get really good at the things that matter the most and then think of it all as fun. And just because you try something doesn't mean you have to keep it. Like, let's say, for example, you try doing cold showers and you're like, oh, these feel great. But then you enter a season of your life in which they don't. You don't have to keep them up if they don't fit where you are right now. And a good example of this, if you listen to the episode, it was a couple episodes ago about like how to advocate for your health. I talk about the story of how I found out I had an endometrial polyp. And this closed the season for me of cold exposure because I had to really take down all of the stressors on my body. And that was just something that wasn't going to work for me. But now in this season I'm in, this season is almost a year later, I am going to start bringing cold showers back in. And do you see how there's no pressure on that? There's no stress on that. It's something I love, but it has to feel good with where I am right now. And it matters. Really, your energy and your focus, your brain, I'll say this again and again and again, your brain is the most important asset that you have in your business. Without it, without your energy, without your health, without your clarity, without your focus, there are so many parts of your business that don't matter. Like if you are not well enough to have a full day in your business, to have the energy you need to stay focused and productive without getting distracted and confused and overwhelmed, or have your emotions be running the show, right? Like this is going to have a bigger impact on your business than if you created a new product or course or you put up a new Instagram post. So your health really matters, right? And in my Becoming Limitless program, we not only focus on creating the consistency and awareness of how much we are taking on and what we have space for, kind of like this health habit zoom out we talked about today, but we also talk about getting good sleep. We talk about getting good food. We talk about building resilience. Strategy meets coaching. If you just take all of these health habits, all of the strategy that, you hear on the podcast, you see on Instagram, what ends up happening is you're one of those people who have 20 health habits, moving forward on none of them, dropping the ball, feeling inconsistent, wondering why you can't do that. So if you are that, do this exercise. Write down your health habits. Rate them 1 to 7, right? And that is why that coaching component is so important. You need to be able to have that awareness to see where you are right now. Where is the next level you need to get to, and what do you need to do to get there without trying to jump 5 steps ahead? It's one step at a time, right? And if you want accountability, not only from me, but from a community of driven entrepreneurs that are on this path that are like, I want to prioritize my health. It matters to me. My energy matters, my health. I'm ready to level up. I've got the success in my business and I want more out of life. I want to feel amazing in it. And if you want coaching from me, like if you directly want me in your back pocket, answering questions, giving you feedback on your routines, your protocols, your strategy, your mindset, there is a link in the description to join my program, Becoming Limitless. There are 2 different ways you can join us. Number 1 is in the membership program, which is a monthly subscription. You can stay a month or stay a year. You can stay as long as you want until you're getting that result and you feel like you have the support and the accountability to get you to that next level, right? It's about community, it's about coaching, and it's about moving you forward in your health. You can also opt into what I call the Becoming Limitless Fast Track, which is one-on-one with me weekly calls where we take your health in 4 months and we really move you forward fast because you're having my eyes on your brain on those weekly coaching calls, really exploring with you the mindset you have, getting to dig in really deep with those calls every single week. So the link is in the description, Becoming Limitless. If you are ready for that next level of consistency and you know that a community is what you want to do it in with that coaching and you want to work with me, it's all there for you. I hope this has been very helpful for you. This health habit zoom out, it's an activity I do with my clients. I'm now giving it to you. Use these things. It's not just about the what to do, but about how to keep consistent with it. And this is the tool that'll bring awareness and start you down this journey. So I hope this has been helpful. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you next time. Bye. Want to know more about the Becoming Limitless program? Everything you need to know is linked in the description. You can head to my website at tanessashears.com to learn all about the program. Or if you're not ready to work together yet, you can check out my free podcast, Becoming Limitless. It's the go-to podcast for entrepreneurs who want to optimize their brain and their body with biohacking.